Bang! Pete Carroll signs in Las Vegas.
I know.
And now people are suggesting Russ might come join him.
I love the idea of like how the tables have turned, and like maybe Russ calls Pete up, like needing like, hey, I could use a job somewhere, and then Pete, knowing that Russ has tried to force him out of a job and successfully did. Just does a whole like, yeah, let me talk to the people here and get back to you. Hangs up the phone, watches TV for a while, maybe goes golfing. Just takes some time to let him sweat it out, and then calls him back. Like just to kind of make him worry. I like the idea of a reunion though, and I like that so many people who have at one point publicly or privately that we've heard spurned Pete end up cycling back around.
Always.
Like there are a number of players who have at one point complained about Pete or complained about the organization. Give it a couple years, and then they come right back around.
Would it shock you if in the last year, since Pete was no longer the coach of the Seahawks and Russ was going through it, first in Denver and then in the beginning of the season in Pittsburgh, would it shock you if Pete had reached out to Russ to mend fences and offer support?
No, not at all.
It would shock me zero.
Yeah. No, genuinely. I was on with... it's this Raiders Network show called Unnecessary Roughness, and it was when the search was still on, so they had their sights set on like Ben Johnson and a couple other guys, and I got the sense that maybe some fans weren't super high on the idea of Pete Carroll, which I get. He's an older head coach, and one of the most popular questions they had from listeners, it sounded like, was why didn't it work for Pete in Seattle? And the one thing I kept saying was like, you got to separate a head coach not finding the success he did before with somehow the idea that he's not good at what he's best at, which is relationships. He was still good at that.
I would have answered it did work for Pete in Seattle. I mean, it worked for a really long time.
Well,
he won a Super Bowl, went to 2 Super Bowls.
It worked more than it did for any head coach ever. And
it worked for Pete in Seattle. What happened at the end?
Yes.
Well, that's a different conversation.
Yes. Well, and that's a complicated situation that doesn't just lie with Pete.
Do you think the first thing, I was surprised, I just say it again, I'll stop short of shocked, but I was definitely very surprised.
That he got the job with the Raiders? Me too.
And that he took the job, all of it.
Yeah.
I, first of all, didn't think Pete was going to coach again. I thought he would discover the rest of the world and be like, oh, this is fun. I want to do this and I want to do that. And
the
I want to
coach that wants to win forever?
Yeah, but the coach who's interested in everything. I mean, he's just such a curious fellow that I figured he'd be like, you know what? I took my head out of the bunker. It was kind of like, oh, wait, all of these other things exist in the world that I didn't have time for before. I kind of want to go do all of those things. Yeah. And maybe got sick of it after a year. I was like, oh, actually, you know what I really love is football.
Yeah, I see. I think that Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick are people that are juxtaposed frequently because of their seemingly very different personalities. And I think they're fundamentally the same person, which is like they're singularly obsessed with winning.
I think that is true. I dare you to interview each of them once a week for a year and tell me they're the same person fundamentally.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is they have the exact same kind of drive.
I think you're right about that. They've just gone about it 2 very different ways.
Well, yeah, one of them is incredibly nice and friendly and funny, and the other is
Pete Carroll. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I knew that one was coming. Yeah. The other thing that surprised me is I just can't ever imagine Pete going into a situation without full control.
No.
And so until we know what that looks like here, you said he wrote the book Win Forever. That's basically what the book says.
Yes.
Is like, I got to be in control. I got to do it my way, or else you don't really have the juice. I don't see Pete going into middle management.
No, I don't either. And I think to assume that, he's older, he needed another shot. I don't think he's settling for anything. And important to note that the Raiders fired their GM, Tom Telesco. So very much, there is very much the possibility that as part of this arrangement, Pete does have control.
Yeah, I would assume so. I also think that it may very well be that this is part of getting Shedeur Sanders there, that there is no better fit for Shedeur than Pete. Yeah. Who would embrace the madhouse that is going to be the Shedeur Sanders show more than Pete would? To
get Shedeur Sanders, you'd have to buy into the idea that the Titans, or at the very least the Patriots, would be willing to trade back, which I can buy for the Titans.
The Patriots aren't going to draft a quarterback.
Well, the Browns.
The Browns, G was trying to argue that Dion is not going to control the process, which I just don't believe. He's already basically said he would.
Yeah.
Shedeur Sanders is not going to Cleveland. That's just not happening. I don't believe it. I don't believe it'll happen. I think that if there's any way for it to not happen, it will not happen. I just can't imagine Deion Sanders' kid is going to play for the Cleveland Browns.
How does he control that with the Browns, though? And how do the Browns not draft him and then trade him?
However Archie Manning did it with Eli and the Chargers is the exact same playbook that he should be using with Shedeur. There is just no way Shedeur Sanders is going to play for the Browns. Don't believe it.
Well, no, I think what could happen is the Raiders are a prime candidate, obviously, to trade up. They badly need a quarterback. We heard reports from Adam Schefter that the Titans would be willing to listen to offers and may not take one, but it's so hard to believe because it's fundamentally what they need.
Yeah, but this may not be the year for it. I mean, like if you're the Titans, do you just say, you know what? Cam Ward just isn't the guy. Like the only thing worse than not having a quarterback is having the wrong quarterback, and we don't want to waste 3 years trying to figure out if Cam Ward is that guy. Let's trade out, see if we can get another pick next year, and pick our quarterback a year later.
Yeah. Even without his quarterback, I am really excited for some of the pieces he has to work with. I think that when you see a team that doesn't make the playoffs, maybe that struggled for a couple seasons, people go, oh, that's such a trash team. I don't know what he's going to do. I do think that they have a culture problem, clearly. Any team like that is going to have a culture problem. But, you have a first team all-pro tight end who led all rookies in receiving yards. You have maybe one of the best edge rushers he's worked with in a while. You've got some really nice pieces out there. Quarterback's the massive question, but he's got a foundation to work with to succeed, maybe not immediately, but with the expectation that he can.
Yeah, I think, again, I'm fascinated to see this. I think it's going to be awesome. Having Pete back in the league is a great thing.
Why did you think that he wouldn't be in the NFL again?
I mean, really, what I just said, I honestly believed he wouldn't want to be. That he would just say, you know what, I'm done. I really am on to the next stage of my life, and I'm going to attack that with a full purpose. And I think he did that for a year and then was like, wait a minute, you know what I still really love is football, and I still believe I can offer something to a team and I can go help a team win. And so, yeah, now he's back, and I'm not that surprised that an NFL team is willing to give him a shot. As G pointed out, the entire AFC West is now old guys.
Oh, yeah, lowest age is 61, and the oldest head coach in the NFC West is 45.
Wow.
So basically, they're all old enough to be the parents of the NFC West coaches.
You want to hear something embarrassing?
Yes.
So G was going through all of the NFC or AFC West, and he's like, yeah, think about Harbaugh's old, and Peyton's old, now Pete's old, and Andy Reid is old. You're talking about probably four of the five oldest head coaches, maybe the four oldest head coaches.
Yes.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And I was about to make the point about the NFC West that you just made. I was like, but we were on the air at the time, and I was like, okay, I was thinking through it in my head, and I was like, yeah, well, Mike McDonald's certainly young, and McVay's super young, and Shanahan's super young. And then I couldn't remember for the life of me who the head coach was in Arizona.
Jonathan Gannon.
I literally couldn't remember who it was. And so I was like, I better not make this point because, what if it's some 60-year-old in Arizona? But yes, it's not until you just said the name Jonathan Gannon that I remembered he existed as a human being.
And you know what's crazy? Jonathan Gannon's only 42 or 43. Kyle Shanahan's the old one at 45. Poor Jonathan Gannon. Cardinals stay taking strays for no reason. They don't deserve this.
Yes, they do. They're the worst. They're one of the worst organizations.
They're just sitting there, innocent, bothering no one.
So funny. Anyway, Stacy, thank you. It was a short little time, but thank you for coming in.
Anytime.
Bump and Stacy coming up. I would imagine a lot of conversation about Pete.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows what we'll do today?
Yeah. Oh.
No, yes, we're opening talking about Pete. I was very excited when I heard the news.
It's good news.
I can't wait to dive in.
It's fun. And by the way, Seahawks play the Raiders not this coming year, but next year.
2026. Yeah.
So that should be awesome.
I'm so excited.
I hope it's here.
And I love a Harbaugh Carroll reunion twice a year.
Right?
Yeah, I'm really excited about.
There's a lot of fun little parts to this whole thing.
I never thought that I'd be like, wow, really excited to tune into some Raiders games this year.
I know. Well,
look at me now.
Now there might be Raiders fans for the first time in a while. All right, Stacy Rost, Bump and Stacy.